a little bit. It's not super important right now because compared to the kind of late stage that we're going to be in that we have been in LCK and LCS, we're kind of just in the upper bracket right now. It is G2 versus BDS coming up in the winners final. Now that sounds good in theory because you think to yourselves, hey, isn't that the final we should have gotten in winter? But if you actually look at how they got there, it becomes very sad very quickly. Because as we alluded to earlier in this show, watching BDS versus Vitality was such an epic throw by Vitality that it was almost unbelievable that BDS could win this series.
Yes.
And it's sad because Photon has been very good and played really well in some of these games, and yet somehow managed to lose because
story of history in LEC so far, by the way. Story of history in LEC.
Because in game number 2, Douglas and Hylissang just get caught out repeatedly when they have a massive lead. And then in game number 3, to be fair, Photon forced a fight that they didn't need to fight when they could have just slowly gone to Dragon, taken Dragon Soul or taken Soul Point, and then snowballed the game with a significant gold lead. What's so crazy is that Vitality always finds a way to throw. They get these really big early game leads. You get to see, like, Douglas has actually been better, I would say, this split than he has been in other splits. So he was actively bad at times previously. Hylissang has actually actively been bad for a lot of this year. And yet he was doing better in playoffs. And so now we get to these points where the early games, Karzi's very good, VTO's very good, Photon's really good. They get leads. And instead of what either happens is they overforce, don't do a safe and reliable snowball to win the game, or people just got caught out and die and give up objectives. And it's sad. Like Vitality, it's like watching Breon from last year, where you're almost just waiting to see how big a lead they can throw and how stupidly they're going to throw it. It's crazy. Like, you don't have to take these fights. Why are we doing forced TP fights? Why are we getting caught by ourselves? Like, why do we have, and come on, man. I know Mac can teach these concepts. Like, they'll probably get there eventually, but it is very sad to watch right now.
Unfortunately, my theory the whole time when he was in Vitality and it started to fall apart with the perks and upset lineup last year for Photon is he plays like a player that doesn't have access to voice comms. He's just playing out the solo queue style. Because I actually think, by the way, for real, there's another fucking name that I would think about going back to Korea, man. I think you would be a monster in the LCK. I think you'd be a really good player. Good. I think you could be an excellent player and you could go to Worlds. So I think you're wasting your fucking time on Vitality, mate. Not least because they've just never made it. They've never made it cohesive. No matter how good you are in lane, it's never like he's exactly the reason why we don't play Jace in the West. Because if you're the top lane Jace, I'm ahead in lane, and then no one knows how to play around you. It's not the LPL, mate. No one knows what to do. And I'm just going to say this: people are going to think because BDS won the series, Adam did well. Adam was a fucking clown, mate. What are you talking about? This guy never made it back from that benching. It's like it's like they benched his soul and only his body came back.
So I will say about the Gragas game, he was quite bad in lane, and he actually did get Giga-styled on by Photon. Some of his engages and casks in the late game in terms of team fighting were good. But remember, Gragas is supposed to be a counter matchup into Jace, so Gragas should win that lane, and he is actually just getting they are straight up. He's getting 1v1. He's losing 2v1s to Photon. Like,
by the way, his jungler's good as well. Like, Chio isn't a fucking bum. He has people on his team.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. I was not really super thrilled with Sheo's Maokai play in the third game of this series. But when he's on Vi, when he's on these champions where he can really go in and fight, he's been good. That's been his identity as a player. But yeah, I mean, I felt bad in game 2 because of the inting that was occurring at critical moments from Douglas and Hylissang. And then in the final game of this series, Photon himself is just TPing in it. And it's not even the TP that was bad. It was over forcing it after the TP. You can scare them off and take vision control and TP in. That's fine. And you just go take Drake. You can't just TP in and then lose the game. Also, Carzzy had some pretty suspicious play on the Xayah where he was using his ultimate really offensively and then dying as a result because he was playing too close into these team fights where he was just getting AoE'd by like Renekton and Hui. BDS out team thought them. That's for sure. But it wouldn't have happened if there weren't some very serious mistakes made by Vitality, both individually and kind of collectively in terms of macro. And I don't think really BDS deserved to win this series.
No, this is the reason this sucks. It's because BDS isn't actually a top team right now. Right now, the real thing that sucks is this. You had G2 and then Fnatic looks like they're just behind, right? And then you had these two teams that could maybe join that Fnatic party, and it's Vitality and then maybe Heretics, if you like the macro a little bit.
Sure.
Those teams, that hype's dead right now. We have to resurrect it at this point in fucking time. It's all looking good, boys. That hope is gone. Europe again looks kind of like a two-team region.
Yeah, and people will point to the games that G2 played against Fnatic. And Fnatic definitely made quite a few major mistakes. It is pathetic how Fnatic lost game 2 of this series because they literally, like, Humanoid is like farming in topside and Razork is in the top side, and they know that G2 just took Herald. Like, they took a very late Herald at around 19 and a half minutes, so about as late as you can take a Herald. And they know that they have Herald, and they're coming into the mid lane, and they leave Noah alone in the mid lane. He's playing Zeri. He cannot clear that wave by himself. There is a Volibear with ult up on the enemy team. He cannot walk up on the wave and clear the wave. But the Corki and the Jax are in the top side, so Noah has to back off the turret. The Herald just knocks down their base. Then they engage late. Corki dies, and then the game just like weirdly ends at 21 minutes. Like, I bet you G2 was extremely surprised that the game ended at that point in time. But it's like Fnatic was playing solo queue, and like some guy was just rage split pushing in the top side and ignoring the fact that there was this Herald charging down the mid lane. Like, you have to have the Corki there. I don't even hate their drafts. Like, the thing about Fnatic's comp in game number 2 is that if you're G2, who kills the Corki in the late game? They have no real backline access, and the Corki got pretty fed, and Humanoid is a good Corki player, but he only used package once this game. They look super uncoordinated, and the package usage was not great. And then like they just split push themselves into a defeat at 21 minutes. And I'm like, why are we just letting G2 win a game for free? So even like, I wasn't even impressed with G2 in these wins because it kind of just got handed to them in a way. G2 is still very good though.
You can never hit on G2 because at this point in time, like, Fnatic will always give them a free game when they play. So if you're G2, you are only shadow boxing yourself. That is the hardest thing to do in the world. Now, look, the greatest of all time in sports can do it because they sometimes project that they're shadow boxing the other great champions in history and they have to win as much as possible. It's really hard to stay at the cutting edge when the other team won't push you there. Like, they will win even when clown shit happens in these series. It's hard. It's hard. I get it.
I mean, G2 overplays at times too, but because nobody actually does anything, they're not really punished for the mistakes that they make. For example, in game number 1 of this series, G2 actually makes a very good, oh no, it was a game 2. So this was the second game. Also, they make a very good play on the Humanoid who's, the Drake is spawning basically. It's third Drake. It's going to be soul point for G2. They see Humanoid over pursued in lane, and they double TP with Broken Blade and Caps and intercept Humanoid and kill him. But instead of just turning back and taking the fucking Drake or setting a trap in the jungle, instead, 2 players are just sitting there in the jungle trying to make a play while 2 players, like it's like Caps and Mickey X are sitting there in the jungle where Hansama and Yike, because Broken Blade dies in the play, are on the Drake. And they don't take the Drake. They don't like try and stack for soul. They don't try and snowball reliably. Instead, 2 of them decide to make this play in the enemy jungle and they end up dying. And it's like, why are we doing this? Like, if you want to make the trap play, then just all of you commit to it. Or just send the vault, just send the jungler to go do the Drake. Who cares? Why is Hans Sama down there? But they're trying to do two things at the same time, even though the play was, let's commit both of our TPs, kill Humanoid, because Humanoid has TP up, and he's going to go get the package. And what we want, our goal is, get soul point. Okay? Our goal is get soul point. How do we achieve get soul point? Now, if Humanoid goes back to base, picks up the packages Corki, and TP's in, we might lose the Drake fight. So what do? We preemptively TP, catch him out, kill him. Now, what do, Thorin? Oh, they die in the jungle, then turn back onto the Drake. Humanoid comes back, he comes alive again, gets the package, and then TP's in the fight. The fucking thing you didn't want to have happen has now happened because you're too stupid to finish your own play. And you know what's hilarious, Thorin? They still get the dragon in the end. Eventually, it takes several minutes, but they still get it. But my point is that a good team internationally will punish these things. But in Europe, they just get the objective anyway. It's like they fuck up royally, and then they just get the objective. So
that is essentially, forget this series, that's just like one of the hallmarks of G2 in Europe. It's like they can even fuck up, but never hard enough to lose. They're like double lifting. Just get themselves in a shit position, just outplay an LCS, just win anywhere.
Yeah. But Caps is still really good. Mickey X had a really good series overall. His Nabi game in game number 1 was incredible. Showing still that why he's a world-class support player. Making super good decisions, hitting all his bubbles, hitting all his waves, you know. Looks great doing it. Broken Blade looked very good in game number 1, on point with the flanks he was making on the Renekton, on point with his TPs, carrying team fights. Like, very good shit from G2. Game 1 was impressive. Game 2, I mean, it was a bit of happy gaming, but the thing is, like, even G2's happy gaming sometimes is punished in Europe, but not now, apparently. So they're never really pushed to the limit, and nobody seems to be able to get their shit together enough to do so. And that's why I think people find LEC depressing.
Here's where it's going to get really sad. Well, obviously the upper bracket of G2 BDS is a fucking best of 5. I can't, mate.
That's not going to be a fun series.
A best of 5.
Because if we see the kind of leads that Vitality had, I mean, G2 is just going to win those games. We talk about the happy gaming, but like G2 is just too good. Even with them happy gaming, they're a lot better. Like, they make stupid plays, but they don't get like caught out and lose 5,000 gold leads and then lose the game. Even if they lose the gold lead, they still eventually win the game, because as soon as they do something dumb, they like tighten up and make a good decision again and get themselves back into it, which is unlike what Vitality does. So I think it is going to be very tough for BDS to win that series. Very tough. And we still have to go through the entire losers bracket first, Thorin, because keep in mind, nobody's actually been eliminated, so we got a bunch of trash games to go through.
There's games today.
Yep, there's games today. SK versus Team Heretics, and SK looks absolutely tragic in terms of their mid-game decision-making. And Giant X versus MTK. Oh boy, what a treat. And then we have to wait until Sunday. And then we get some of those other matches once again. And it'll be, I guess, next Monday is when we get G2 versus BDS. I guess that'll be Sunday for Europe. It's just showing for me as Monday because I'm in Korea. So a couple more weeks of LEC remaining. Plenty of matches to go, but it just feels so over with G2. Like, we can talk about the other playoff regions. We can talk about BLG. We can talk, the underdog won in LCS. We can talk about Gen G. And we can think that, hey, LPL might be a little bit more opaque. Gen G should win in LCK, but it just feels written in stone that G2 win yet again.
They're great. Why not? Should. It's up to the other teams to make it interesting.
It just feels like the upset is impossible.
Just win everyone.
Like, even when they make mistakes, they just win even faster. Like, that's what's so baffling about the Fnatic game. It's like they fuck up, but somehow Fnatic just loses to themselves. even faster.
That's also why it's so egregious, because if you're Fnatic, you can get one of their lives off them in a best of 3, guys. Then you just have to play one best of 5 in the final. That's the recipe to fluke and steal the split. You're not going to beat them in this best of 5 come from low bracket. Well, I don't know about that, but I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, I also think, like, you know, G2's already qualified for MSI. If they win the league again, then it's just going to be circuit points as to who goes. And that'll depend on placements. So they will take the first seed, and the second seed will just be about the championship points. And right now, BDS is in the lead. They have a minimum of 175. So it'll depend on how well they do in the rest of the bracket. But Fnatic has a chance to kind of, like, they're going to have to make a pretty serious run if they want to defeat BDS on championship points, because they scored less than them in the last split.
Well, they're going to have to make the final, aren't they? Because obviously BDS is going to be top 3 now, at minimum.
Yep. And it's very bad for Fnatic, if you're a Fnatic fan, if you want to see that team at MSI that BDS beat.
And also,
Vitality.
I said last year when they almost won that split, it'd be terrible. Imagine if this BDS goes to MSI, mate. Are you kidding me? That will be a joke, mate. We've been flaming the LCS teams. This will be a joke too. They'll get fucking bodied, mate.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like if Fnatic places second, they will be five championship points higher than BDS. So it'll be 180 to 175. But Fnatic basically has to make the finals now. They have to make the finals because BDS is locked in top 3.
Which means they can't have a series against like a Vitality where they just fuck up and throw 2 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So any of the teams that get to the finals looks like they will qualify. So it really is just like make the top 2 in the finals or bust for the LEC teams this split. So, I mean, it's going to take somebody, because BDS just has so many points already. Yeah. I guess there are some other scenarios too, because of Mad Lions' second place, that might end up making things a bit odd. Because I don't think they will get very far along, Mad Lions. I think they'll lose well before that, but they actually have a minimum of 135 points now, and they won 100 last time. So if they get into third place, then they would have 195.
They might have to beat Fnatic then, probably. They'll have to beat, if they can beat Fnatic, then maybe they deserve it. Fuck it.
Yeah. So there are some scenarios remaining, but basically, like, among the teams that I think are realistically going to be able to make finals, those teams should basically be able to lock in going. So BDS, Fnatic, maybe Vitality. I mean, look, if Vitality can turn their shit around, potentially they could actually do something here. But they have to do more than make finals, because even if they make finals and BDS is third, they would still have fewer championship points. So they would have to win finals. Seems unlikely. Yeah. So we'll see. Mad Lions definitely has the easiest path based on their second place finish from last time, but not the most likely, because they would have to make an entire lower bracket run now, and that is very hard to do.
The key thing is we're just ramping up right now. As Monty says, we're going to now go into a good LCK game. Then the week after, we're going to have some good LPL games. Then we're going to have all the finals. And then I'm going to LEC final. That'll be shit, but whatever. I threw it in there. And then we get MSI.
Yep.
That's what I'm waiting for, mate. MSI is my world.
And I'll be back in America for MSI. So I'll be streaming VOD reviews at a time that's probably better for you, whether you're in North America or in Europe.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.